You say Apple's underappreciated. I guess we'd start at Peter Thiel underappreciating Apple in that case. Is the era of Apple over, or would you distinguish that from saying the iPhone's strongest growth is behind it? Because, I mean, when did the era of Apple begin? Right. Was it post-iPod? Was Apple not cool until the iPhone came around?
I would say this. I still think the biggest innovations are ahead for Apple. And it's a very myopic view to look at the smartphone as the only play on Apple. Today it is the bulk of what they do, albeit their market share is very, very small at 10 to 15%, depending on what quarter you look at. But when we look out on the horizon, and we were just at CES, last week, I think a self-driving car fits very well with what Apple does. VR, AR, television market, and also personal robots. That was a big theme at CES last week. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for Apple still.
And Angelo, if the era of Apple is over, is it clear whose era is beginning, or are we just sort of in an in-between space?
Yeah, I mean, I would also disagree with the fact that the era of Apple is over. I think if you actually look at the smartphone space, and we look at kind of the growth potential there, I mean, clearly the age of double-digit growth is now over with. But as we kind of look for Apple here going forward, I think the opportunities are still there within, particularly the smartphone space, as it relates to 5G offerings, their move to OLEDs, wireless charging here this year, foldable smartphones eventually. So I think on the smartphone side of things, Apple can still innovate and take market share, outgrowing the space. But as far as Apple's concerned, I mean, their emergence into kind of some of the stuff that Brian mentioned, I think is kind of full-fledged there. And we do see significant opportunities in many of those areas, specifically the living room and the connected car market.
Tactically, though, I mean, you look at the channel it's been in for a while. I mean, repatriating some of that cash could get you somewhere, right? Even without big product innovation.
It would be huge. And, you've got $218 billion over $238 billion overseas. Not only would it help with capital return to shareholders, what I would like to see, and I think a lot of investors, is a bigger dividend. So something at a 3.5%, 4% range versus 2% today. That gives you a nice, steady value investor base. And I think the other thing is you can start to increase your acquisitions.
But that doesn't tell you that Apple is any more of an innovator. It's a better financial engineer if they do that.
Well, Apple is so secretive, and yet we do hear about innovations in the media. So we don't hear about everything, but we do hear about some things. So VR, AR, self-driving cars, and our own checks, I think they're interested in personal robots. There is a lot of innovation. We just don't see it on conference calls at the big events that they hold, a couple times a year. So behind the scenes, I think they're innovating.
Angelo, are you comfortable with this content strategy that Apple has at this point? I mean, the services numbers that they put out last week were impressive, but their moves in content lately seem to me to be pretty tentative.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the services business, I mean, it's a business we think will grow on an annual basis of about 15 to 20% a year. I think the move into content is going to play a huge role into the potential growth going forward. It's really tough to say exactly what Apple is thinking as far as content is concerned. I mean, one second we think they're going to take a big move, and the next second it seems like it's going to be baby steps. However, that being said, our view is Apple should, and we think will, make much bigger strides within the streaming space, especially given that over the next several years we're going to see consumers migrate towards more usage of the video usage within the mobile space, and we all know Apple is king when it comes to the mobile space.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.